Hello and welcome to the show. This is a science-based podcast with your hosts, me, Ethan, and Sachin, and
Hello.
our guest today is Job DeCarlos.
Hello.
Okay, so this being science-based, of course we have to give our backgrounds in science. So Sachin, what's your background in science?
Uh, I'm a pretty big science fan. Uh, I'm taking a lot of science courses in school, and my
Uh-huh.
favorite type of science is computer science, which is also not exactly a science, but whatever.
Okay, as for me, I do also take a lot of science classes in school. I've seen cells at work. Um, I like Pokemon. That has a lot of science in it. And my favorite field of science would have to be biology, probably. What about you, Job? What's your
Uh,
background?
I watch the science show a lot because I think it's interesting. Um, Science is pretty cool. I'm pretty bad at chemistry, but it's still pretty cool. Yeah, I guess that's my background.
Okay, so as for science, what do we mean by science? Well, you know it when you see it, all the bips and bloops and all the chemicals moving around. That's what we mean by science. Honestly, in this podcast, it's going to be pretty loosely defined science. Uh, as in, like, if it feels like science, it is science, but not social sciences because
Yeah, we're talking
that's
about
not.
the more hard science instead of the soft sciences, so we're including like biology, chemistry, physics, computer science. Well,
Probably not
okay,
psychology. That's in the script, but probably not that one.
Yeah, I was about to say.
yeah,
So
that's more
Joe,
of a soft science.
When you say science, what do you think of? What do you think science is?
I I picture a little guy in a lab coat using chemicals. I think,
Or a woman?
or a woman. Yeah, woman in STEM, empower.
Women,
But
women and stuff.
but I think about chemicals. I think about the body, like muscles and whatnot. Think about all that sort of stuff.
I hope it can't record my muting sound because that's just me clearing my throat. But oh well, we move on. So Sacha, would you like to introduce today's theme?
All right. So what happens is in each of these episodes, we're going to have a central theme of the episode, and all of the segments that we talk about are going to be related to the theme. And today's theme is beginnings, and by beginnings, I mean beginnings in general, as in the beginning of the universe, the beginning of life, the beginning of science, and just
Beginning of this
introductions in general.
podcast.
Yeah, that too.
Oh, I see.
So what do you think about beginnings? What do you think? What's an interesting beginning for you,
I mean,
Joe?
I feel like the beginning of the universe is always like a pretty interesting thing to talk about and to think about.
All
What
right.
about
So
the beginning
what
of
do
our
you?
relationship? Never mind.
What was that? All right.
Anyway,
Yeah. Anyway. So, yeah, what do you know about the Big Bang, Job?
Well, I know there was just like void and nothingness, and then suddenly it exploded into everything.
what do you know
Yeah.
about the TV show?
I love Sheldon. He's my favorite character.
You
Same.
see Little Sheldon?
Young Sheldon, you mean?
Oh, Young.
No, I've not.
Yeah.
It's also pretty great.
Yeah.
I see. I see.
Okay.
Anyway, back to the topic. Do you know when the Big Bang happened? Or when it was supposed to have happened?
It wasn't like 13 billion years ago or something like that.
To be more precise, about 13.8 billion years ago, or
Um,
13.7 if you will.
uh,
Rounding kind of sucks sometimes.
all right, I see.
But basically, the universe was smaller than the size of an atom at that time, and it expanded until it was the size of light years, and it expanded to that size in seconds. And for those people who don't know, a light year is the distance that it takes light a year to travel. I was about to say that all sorts of wrong. Um, so at the formation of the universe, atoms like hydrogen and helium began to exist, but the more complex and heavier elements didn't exist yet. And there's something we call the observable universe, which is also known as the Hubble volume, and that's from our frame of reference. It's a 45 billion light year diameter centered at our Earth, and that's the size of the universe that we can see because of the light that traveled. And the reason that the diameter is more than like twice the radius, which is 13.8 billion light years, is because the universe was still expanding faster than light can travel. So if you imagine seeing a star, you're really seeing its after image after a certain number of years. It could be much further away than it actually looks, and that's how we can see further than how old the universe is. And this effect means that people in the future might not be able to see the star because the expansion's accelerating. So the star might move further away than light can travel towards us, so the star might just disappear from view and go outside of the observable universe.
I see.
Also, there's alternate theories of creation besides the Big Bang. Do you know any of them?
Actually, I don't. I didn't know there's any
I'm
other
sure
theories.
you'll know at least one of them.
I'm sure you do. You given your Filipino background.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. Filipinos have a strong root in
Oh, okay.
Christianity.
I see. I see. I thought you meant like more scientific theories, but yeah, there
What
is
do you
the.
mean by that? More scientific. What are you
I
implying?
don't, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's just
Would you
like
like to regale
more.
us with your understanding, with your theory, with one of
What
Filipinos'
the
theories?
theory I came up with myself.
Yeah.
Well, in the good old Bible, it says that God created the universe in 7 days, well, 6 days, and then took a little sleepy time on the seventh. You know?
As you should.
Yeah,
Observing the Sabbath.
yeah. Is it?
The Shabbat, as they say.
That's for Jewish people, but okay. Uh, but yeah, there is that theory. I suppose it is a theory. Um, where God created the universe in His image.
Yeah. And there's also other theories. There's one called steady state, which what it says is that there's a continuous creation of matter throughout the universe, and what that means is like there's matter is constantly being created at different parts of the universe, and that's why it's constantly expanding. Although that obviously breaks the law of conservation of matter. And there's another theory that's called eternal inflation.
You want to read that first bullet point?
Uh, I can't remember why, but I wrote Big Chungus as an elaboration point for eternal
Is that
inflation.
is that like part of it or
Inflation? Question mark.
I don't like eternal inflation.
Why not?
Um, okay,
I
well,
just
we
don't.
still haven't told you what it is, and I
All right,
still
all
can't
right. We'll
remember
reserve
why
that.
it's related to Big Chungus, but
I don't know.
moving
Big
on.
Chungus is kind of inflated.
Moving on. Um, it's similar to the Big Bang Theory, but it also states that the inflation from the Big Bang never actually stopped, so that's why the universe is still
Oh,
expanding. But then it also states that new universes are forming into a multiverse and can have different laws of physics than the one that's occur in our universe, which
that'd be
is
kind of cool.
kind
Do you
of
know what
weird to
inflation
think
is?
about.
What did you say?
Do you know what inflation is?
I suppose it is just like expansion. Yeah.
No, no, no. Like in the more niche kind of inflation.
I want to move on from this topic.
Oh, we're talking about, how prices are constantly increasing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
all that.
yeah.
What else could it be?
Okay, okay.
Anyway, there's
Okay.
one more model that I still have to talk about for creation of the universe, and that's the oscillating model, which also includes the Big Bang theory, but it states that there is constantly a cycle of Big Bangs and, um, this is directly quoted, big crunches, that restart the cycle, which is, I guess, the universe being constantly expanded and then contracted in different cycles.
Oh, I see.
So, yeah, that's basically all I have to say about the creation of the universe.
Is it on me now? Is it my
Yes.
my point? All right. So, Job, how do you think life on Earth started?
How I learned it in the ninth grade was that there is a pool of sludge of chemicals, and then that eventually started something.
All right. And how old's your mother, Job?
Do I have to answer that question on this podcast? I feel like that's not related.
Trust me, it's
Okay.
related. It's related. It's a
Related.
mandatory
How old's
question.
your mother?
She is wait, she is 49?
So
50?
shortly after Job's mother was born, Earth,
Okay.
6.4 billion years ago.
Okay. That's a little rude.
Well, that's how old Earth is. So,
Uh-huh.
You say
okay,
6.4 billion?
yeah. You want to contest me on that? You want to contest Wikipedia.com on that?
Isn't it 4.6?
Yeah,
Didn't I
4.6.
say 4.6?
No, you said
You're
6.4.
dyslexic. You're dyslexic, actually.
I said 4.6.
You
Oh,
said
Anyway,
6.4.
well, Earth was just like a ball, you know what I'm saying? Just like a ball. And then
Uh-huh.
4.37 billion years ago, an asteroid hit Earth, but that asteroid had water on it.
one asteroid?
Ooh. Well, a couple asteroids, maybe like two or three, maybe five or six, maybe a lot.
Oh,
Okay,
so they
so
had like ice
basically,
on them?
yeah.
Okay,
Well,
I see.
life dates back to 4.2 billion years ago, right before Job's mother was born.
Okay.
So you were partially right. You were right in that the primordial soup helped form microspheres and coacervates, which like they're like balls of fats or proteins that create an outside environment and an inside environment. So like once you have an inside environment, that you could change the conditions to facilitate life. Because at this time, Earth was a pretty bad place to be in. It was a bad neighborhood, as you would say.
Uh-huh.
So so there are a bunch of like, random molecules sitting there. There's carbon, there's like hydrogen, there's nitrogen, all that
Mhm.
stuff. It was just floating around. And then they gradually started combining, lightning strikes and stuff, energy stuff. They started combining and making organic molecules that started floating around. And these two guys, Oberon and Halliday, did an experiment and they're like, oh my god, the primordial soup can make organic molecules. So this is kind of like the idea of abiogenesis, but not in a stupid way, where like living things arise from non-living things.
Uh-huh.
But like not that's not how it's typically used, but it's kind of similar. Anyway, so RNA, ribonucleic acid is, it's an early form of genetic material because it can self-replicate, it can do its own thing. And then, endosymbiont theory. It's a pretty important one for how we got our cells and stuff, you know what I'm saying? So prokaryotes, simple cells, much like the guest himself, started, floating around, floating, and then they started doing photosynthesis, harnessing the power of the sun and making oxygen in the ozone layer. So the ozone protects us from the death ray that is the sun, as you'd say.
Mm-hmm.
And then organisms, they started using oxygen for respiration, primitive mitochondria. And then bigger prokaryotes started eating smaller prokaryotes and they formed eukaryotes, much like Sachin and I, eukaryotic
Okay.
cells.
Okay.
And then they
Wait,
had
what about
quorum
Job?
sent. He was a prokaryote.
Oh, alright. I
That's
see.
not that's just
Carry
not
on.
scientific. That's just not scientific.
Well, I'm looking at your profile picture right now. The listeners can't see, but that's not any eukaryote that I know of. And then
Alright.
quorum sensing. Cells could sense each other with chemicals, and they're like, oh, my friend's right next to me. Let's work together so I can make group action. And
I
then,
would like to clarify that friends did not exist at this point.
okay,
How
shut
do you
up.
know? What if they
And
did?
then
I mean, I
Chandler
know
started
because
making those
I'm
funny
slightly younger
jokes.
than Job's mother.
Okay.
Oh,
I see.
anyway, anyway. plants moved to land. You know what I'm saying? Because like at this time, Earth was pretty violent. So plants
Hmm.
needed to move there first. So you know what I'm saying. And then animals move there. So basically, like fish and stuff, they give birth to eggs in the water.
Yeah.
Well, animals that moved to land, they developed an amnion, which allowed the eggs to be born inside the land because it's like a casing that protects the egg. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shell.
Amniotic fluid, birth liquid.
Uh-huh.
Ethan, I think you missed a part of plants moving to land in the notes.
Okay, so what has been considered as the harshest party foul in history is when plants and animals move to land. Because there is a picture of like if I was a time traveler, I'd push the first fish back into the water so that I
Uh-huh.
wouldn't have to pay taxes. I mean, to an extent, I believe in that. Like, I wouldn't be here if that fish didn't, try to get on land. But,
Yeah.
it's party foul nonetheless.
Do you think just throwing him back in the water would traumatize it enough to never go back?
I
I
don't
would,
think that would. I think he would test it again. So I think I'd have to, like, bonk him on the head.
I would
Give him
like
a
to
good old, like,
clarify
bonk.
that trauma also did not exist at this time.
Perhaps
Yeah,
it did.
Joe's mother was cooking up all those
You
prehistoric
have
fish.
that's not true. That's not
So more
real.
animals started like moving on land. They started changing, evolution, mass extinctions. Here we are. So yeah,
Um,
it all started with that fish walking on land,
yeah, and
and
then
now we're sitting behind computer screens talking about Job's mother.
uh,
Cue
and
the Big
but
Bang Theory opening.
So Job, what do you
uh,
think about that?
yeah, that's pretty cool. I think my favorite era uh like that happened when life was like going on was the Ice Age. I really like those movies.
Oh, that
Um,
squirrel.
yeah. So I think living in those times would be kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how hot they drew the mammoth, wasn't it?
I wouldn't say that actually.
They draw her like a bit too attractive.
I wouldn't
Uh,
want to put that on the record.
well, everyone's got their own
Dude,
opinions, I
did
guess.
you see Diego? Dude, honestly, all the animals in that kind of nice, dude. Did you see
Dude,
Diego's wife and then the female sloths
the
had the
female sloths?
yeah, they had that lazy eye going on.
Alright, Ethan, that's for a different episode. You can talk about all about that in a different episode because we actually
All
have a
Alright,
theme related to that later. So,
alright,
Okay.
sorry.
moving on.
You want to introduce the next segment?
Yes, I shall. But before that, I'd like to go back to what Job said about the Ice Age being an era. So,
Uh-huh.
an era is
Sorry.
actually a different thing than
Yeah, wrong
what it is.
terminology.
Yeah, because there's like a few eras, like the Hadean era, and these are like spans of like hundreds of millions of years or maybe even billions of years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah,
So,
wrong terminology.
next segment, we're going to be talking about some mad lads who are in fact mad scientists, or maybe not necessarily mad scientists, but scientists that had groundbreaking contributions and changed the world pretty
Mhm.
influentially. Okay, that sentence didn't make any sense. Okay, moving on. Talking one of the mad lads that I'm going to be talking about is Alfred Wagner, and he was born in 1880 and he died in 1930, so he got to live a full half century. And he was a German meteorologist and geophysicist. Now, Job, do you remember anything about Alfred Wagner?
Alfred Wagner. He sounds familiar, uh, but I don't really recall too much.
One of his contributions to science is also the name of an Ice Age movie.
Was it Continental Drift?
Yes, it is Continental Drift.
I see.
So what happened is He observed a similarity in the coastlines of eastern South America and western Africa. Although he was not the first person to notice this, he was one of the first people to try to explain this. And in 1910, he's the one who coined the term Pangea, which is the supercontinent that
Mhm.
broke up. And this this term was unique because others said that land sank for the continent to break up, but he instead said that it split, like actually split instead of just having some parts sink.
Uh-huh.
And based on that idea, he eventually came up with continental drift, which he published in 1915, and
Mhm.
which he claimed that there was tectonic plates that moved through the Earth's crust like icebreakers plowing through ice sheets, and couldn't come up with a good explanation for why this could happen. So one of the things he thought was that centrifugal and tidal forces might have caused this movement. I'd also like to point out that centrifugal force doesn't actually exist, but more on that later when we have a different guest. Um, Another part of this that was wrong is that continents don't actually plow through the ocean floor, and instead the ocean floor is also part of the tectonic plates, but he didn't know that at the time. He also cited different geological and paleontological evidence to support this theory. Yeah, he was the first to present evidence from different fields to support that theory. For example, he noticed there was closely related fossil organisms in similar rock strata in widely separated continents like in the Americas and in Africa. But unfortunately, he failed to gain support for the theory and he was ghosted by the 1930s. Like
Uh,
Dang.
many other scientists, he had a resurgence after his death or when he was on the verge of death, and
uh-huh.
that's with plate tectonics, which corrected some measurements and explanations of his theory. Like, for example, he had overestimated the drift rate of the plates,
Mhm.
and they also explained the crust movements.
How quickly did continental drift occur, if that's the case?
How fast were those crusts moving?
In a yeah, in a crude way.
Okay, so
I know a bit about
contrary
crust
to
moving.
the Ice Age animation of the plate splitting up, which was caused by what's the squirrel's name?
Uh, what is his name?
Francesco.
That's
No,
not
no,
right.
it's not that.
All right, I'll get that.
Oh, his
I'll get
name is
that.
Scrat. Right, of course,
Scrat,
Scrat.
Scrat.
Oh, they named him Scat. Oh,
No,
No.
that's not real.
Oh, he's
okay.
got a whole hero fandom article. Interesting.
That's so cool.
Anyway,
Oh, he's not a
so
hero. He's kind of a villain, actually. I'd
You
say
broke
he's more of like an antagonist.
okay,
He's a
anyway,
Machiavellian figure.
so
That's how fast it occurred.
different continental plates move at different speeds, but one of the speeds that I think is between like Europe and North America is they're moving away from each other at about 2.5 centimeters per year. So it's a very slow speed
Oh,
unless
I
you
see.
factor in geological time.
Wait, does that mean eventually they'll just crash back into each other?
Um,
They'll just go around the world because
yes, I guess they
Earth is a
would.
globe? Huh. So, but this
You
time
can
we'll be
ask
like
your mom
cracking our
about it.
backs. Why are you peddling this misinformation on this scientific podcast?
So when can we expect the Philippines to be part of China? When could that reasonably occur?
Actually, in like 10 years.
Oh,
Wait, what?
yeah.
Hold on.
Wait, so according
Not
to your
due to
theories, then
continental drift.
when will Ukraine become part of Russia?
In 2 years'
Um,
time.
I would like to say legally, I cannot answer that question.
Okay, all
Moving
right.
on.
In the coming months, it will become part of Russia.
Oh, dude, so this continental drifting is pretty fast. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right, all right. Is it me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna explain Charles Darwin. So on February 12th, 1809, Charles Darwin was born. So
Uh-huh.
like he's a bit of a nerd, I would say. So he studied a lot of study as a youth. He studied invertebrates and animals and geology. Real sciencey kid. And then skipping some more years, Chortle Dorda went on the HMS Beagle, which is like Her Majesty's ship, the Beagle. I don't know. And he went to the Galapagos and he saw these birds and he was like, wow. Anyway, and then he noticed the birds' beaks and he was like, oh my god. Holy crud.
Holy moly.
So he saw the beaks and he was like, huh, well, these are all finches, I'm sure, probably. And he was like, but they all look different. Some of the birds have a fatter beak, some of them have wider hips, some of them have longer beaks. And
I would
then
just like
he
to
just
say that we
graduated.
do not support body shaming.
Okay, okay. And then in 1859, so he was a good old 50 years old, bit of an old codger at the time. He cooked up on the origins of species, which is like a pretty cool book, pretty accurate, I'd say. And then, I don't know, if you've been in a biology class in high school, you probably had to. What did you just send me? Okay, alright, that was pretty funny. I'll explain after this. So, you probably had to regurgitate the definition of. What's it? I forgot the term. What's that thing that he did?
Natural selection.
Yeah!
Oh my god.
How do you forget
I,
natural selection?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sick.
You
I'm kinda
you
sick right
you
now.
you should be naturally selected.
I'm kind of sick right now. I got some. I don't think it's Omicron. I do believe that it's just like the seasonal cold.
Uh-huh.
Did you just date
Anyway,
this podcast?
Omicron? No, that's gonna be a thing in 20 years from now. Don't worry. Anyway, so he made that book, and he's like natural selection. And so a couple things are required for natural selection to occur. Let me regale you. Let me regale you.
Uh-huh.
So first you need a carrying capacity, right? So like your environment, like a McDonald's can only support about like 100 people,
Yeah.
right? So also there's limited resources. The McDonald's only has 50 hamburgers in the back and like 20 employees.
Gotcha.
Okay, but but you gotta but the population
Mm,
has to produce more than the carrying capacity. So
Uh-huh.
people are coming in at a greater rate than they are leaving, right? So like say there's
Gotcha.
100 people in there, 50 people want to come in. And there's
Uh-huh.
also variation in the population. So some McDonald's shoppers are stronger than others, so they can push them out of the McDonald's. And there's
Yeah.
also competition, of course. They all want the McDonald's, but not all of them can get it. So basically, the ones with the best adaptations stay in the McDonald's, breed, have children in the McDonald's.
In the McDonald's still.
Yeah, and then their children have those traits that help them stay in the McDonald's.
Okay, I see.
Okay, and then his cousin, Francis Galton, he had a less good theory. I'd say it's less like held up today. He had the idea of eugenics, which is like true breeding. You know what I'm saying? Mental traits are inherited. So, well, his book, Charles Darwin did think it was pretty cool. He was like, oh, this is going to influence my Descent of Man, which I will write in 1871. So he applied natural selection to human evolution, which this ends up being kind of like, you can't say that. So say your mom and dad are stupid.
Yeah.
Well, eugenics would posit that you would be stupid. Now we know that that's not true, probably. But say la vie. So Job,
Yeah.
eugenics.
Yeah. I think it's quite
How
you
smart are your
know,
parents?
I mean They're pretty smart, I'd say.
And I'd say you're very smart. I think you
Oh,
make some
thank
good
you.
breeding stock.
Okay, well, I feel like that's a weird way to put it.
You have a wife, don't you? Is she smart?
I suppose.
Oh, okay.
I suppose as I feel like I don't know. Eugenics might be a whole lot of crap though. A whole lot
Yeah,
of
I don't think it's that real because if we go and think, I've spoken to many moms in my life,
yeah.
and I've spoken to their children.
Mhm.
I don't know where I'm going with this.
what are you?
Yeah.
Okay, just move on.
Wait,
Just
hold on.
move
One more
on.
aspect of eugenics that I'm not sure if you explicitly stated is that they use that theory to support the idea that some people should have children, some people shouldn't, and that led to a lot of stuff like the Nazis and other things.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, like SAT testing, where it's like aptitude, even though it's like doesn't make much sense. It just kind of was a racist thing to keep minorities out of certain things because the questions didn't make it like sirloins and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
are we still talking about the SAT?
Yeah, the SAT questions in the past were like the most arbitrary, like odd questions. It's like, you know, you know, you were
I
there.
I suppose I would know.
Yeah, you know.
All right. All right. All right. Moving
So, Joe,
on. What?
have you
What?
read have you read The Descent of Man?
Can't say I have really read that. I don't
How was
think
it?
I said I didn't read that. I just said I have not read that. So I wouldn't know how good it was. If it even was good.
I feel like he's gonna ask how was it again.
How was it though?
I guess it was good, if that's what you want to hear. It was really, really cool.
80% of Google users liked the book.
80%.
80% of Google users? Does that mean like people who just use Google?
Uh,
Yeah, 80% of people in the world have read it, Joe. You
Oh.
haven't?
No, I
wait,
have.
that don't sound right. Hold on.
Yeah, I was like 80% of Google users.
No, 80% of people who rated it on Google liked it.
Oh, I see.
So, who do you think would win the fight, Wagner or Darwin?
I feel like Wagner solos.
He solos the verse.
Yeah, he solos the scientific
Well,
verse.
well, well. Wagner died when he was 50, yeah,
Yeah.
and Darwin wrote *Descent of Man* in 1871. He was born in 1809, so he lived much longer, and he
And,
was
I
and he
feel
was
like that's just
English.
a product of his
and he
time,
also
though.
produced his prime work when he was 50, when Wagner was
Yeah.
just straight up dying.
I feel like that was just because of his time. Give him some like
Wait, no,
penicillin.
actually, Wagner was
Wagner was
after.
born probably
Was he?
after he died,
Oh, that's right. Was he
or
just like
later.
sickly?
I,
I think Charles Darwin solos the verse.
like natural selection and all that.
I see.
Yeah, and he was English, so
I feel like that
What you
doesn't
mean?
add
guest
anything.
segment. So we also have questions that the guest asked us, and we will
Uh-huh.
be answering those questions. So Joe, you sent us these questions, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, Job. Okay, and then we will answer them for you. So the first question you asked, how are babies made? Well, I
Yeah.
think I researched that. I think I researched that one.
Uh-huh.
So how do you think babies are made?
Well, obviously, a mother and father love each other very much, as
Uh
God
huh.
entails, and a
Okay.
stork
No, you
carries their
can't say
child.
on here,
Uh-huh.
bro.
I don't know.
As
What are we
science
talking?
Yeah.
entails.
Okay, as Charles Darwin entails,
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
you
and
can't say on God in here. You have to say on science.
uh-huh, and a stork takes
Uh-huh.
their
No,
beloved child
no.
to their house, drops their child down the chimney, and then
Uh-huh.
that's how they get their baby.
And that's how you explain different minorities, right? So
Yeah.
like an Asian baby, I'm not gonna continue this joke.
No, never. Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
was gonna
stop this
say
one.
never.
I'm gonna nip it in the bud right here.
Well, I also have
So,
a separate theory.
uh-huh.
That like the Boss Baby, there is a baby corporation in the sky
Mhm.
that gives parents their babies.
Okay. 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 So like when I'm gonna nip that one in the joke in the bud as well. I'm not gonna say that one either.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So would you like me to regale you with what science has to say?
Sure, but I will not stop believing in what I believe.
Oh, to be sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. So women. It all starts with the women, I
Gross.
suppose. Yeah, well, what can you do? As a math teacher once told me, you can't live with them and they can't pee standing up. So, you know. So, given that a
Real.
woman built up her uterine lining and is not on her
Right.
period, so you know, women have uteruses as you do,
Uh-huh.
and they're not on their period, meaning the uterine lining is not being chopped off.
Mm-hmm.
The sperm. So this is the tricky part. Men produce sperm.
Whoa.
Okay, so the sperm has to jump out of the man and infiltrate the woman consensually, of course. And then
Yeah.
the sperm goes
I feel
up
like that's
into
not a
the.
requirement.
Well,
What
it
did you just
should
say?
be.
Well, it
It
should be.
What
should be.
I agree with that part, alright? But it is not a requirement.
Okay, you're on thin ice. You're on thin ice. Okay. So the sperm runs up the fallopian. Now, given it's a race, there's a lot of sperm. So they gotta fight. They gotta fight to the death. They go to the fallopian tubes and they go to the eggs places, which are at the ends of the fallopian tubes, and they fertilize the egg. Okay,
Yeah.
so you know there's two fallopian tubes, right? So 50% of the sperm take the wrong chute, and they're out of luck.
Yeah.
So one lucky sperm fuses to the egg, and the egg solidifies instantly, so that no more sperm could get in.
Mm-hmm.
So the fused nuclei, so the sperm is a nucleus, the egg is a nucleus, it forms a zygote, and then cleavage starts to occur. Now, what cleavage is basically it's the zygote splitting in half repeatedly and forming new cells. You know, mitosing, I'd say. The egg will be transferred, so the egg is then is carried to the uterus where it's attached, and then it starts dividing. So the corpus luteum, that's I think that's where the egg comes from, produces estrogen and progesterone to keep the uterine lining intact. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
if if the body starts chopping off the uterus, then the egg's just gonna go away. So we don't want that to happen. And then the baby will start developing in the uterus. You know what I'm saying? The placenta is the interface between the mom and the baby. So they get some important nutrients, some you get some like knowledge. Oh my. And then the baby is ready, right? So the thing about human babies, right? We spec so hard into our brain stat, our intelligence stat, if you will,
Yeah.
that human babies are born at just the time where their head will fit through the mother's bone, if you will. So there's a bone at the bottom. So we're born at the latest possible second so that our brains can develop as much as possible. So it's painful for women to give birth. I've heard. I'm not a
Yeah.
woman myself. So
Mm-hmm.
once the baby's ready, oxytocin and contractions have a positive feedback loop, right? So contractions cause oxytocin causes contractions, and that mother is just contracting until the baby gets shot out. Like you've seen the Dorito commercial?
Yeah, where like they just
Yeah, the dad's like, "Oh, look, the baby's swallowing my Dorito," and he just
yeah.
throws the bag for some reason.
Uh-huh.
And the
And
woman,
then
yeah. So here's the kicker. She gives birth, but what you don't realize, Joe, is that women also have to give birth to a placenta,
yeah.
that meat pillow, if you will. And you know what some women decide to do with this placenta?
now
No,
they
no,
try and
don't,
eat it.
don't.
There are recipes. There are recipes online. If you Google,
Recipes?
yeah, you could cook up this placenta. Some women think it's like good for your health or something. They cook and eat their own placenta. That's crazy,
Uh-huh.
dude.
I-
Well, in the animal kingdom, animals eat their own placenta because, well, there's
The
a
high
good reason.
percent, right?
Yeah, because if say I'm a lion, right, and you're just a supple gazelle, and
Uh-huh.
you just gave birth. If I
Yeah.
smell the placenta, then I know there's a little Job nugget walking around that I
Yeah.
can just pick up. Well, you don't want your baby to get eaten. You're gonna eat
Uh-huh.
your placenta.
I see. So you're saying it's natural for women to want
Yes,
to eat
I
their
think.
placenta. You
Yeah. So
think
the
all women
doctor.
should eat their placenta?
Yes. So
Well,
no.
okay, that's
So
not
the
necessarily.
doc-
He's just
well, Sachin, hold
explaining.
on. No, no, no. The doctor in this situation is a predator. He's the predator. He wants to
Okay.
eat the baby. That's
Yeah,
what they
the
don't tell
doctor
you a
did.
lot. The doctor wants to eat the baby, so he
Yeah.
actually like eats the placenta instead.
So the
Oh.
doctor eats the placenta?
Yeah, to satiate his hunger while the mother escapes with the baby.
Yeah, because it's like a long labor and he probably doesn't get much lunch breaks, so he gets a
He
little
he
hungry.
didn't eat much. He didn't get his like chicken sandwich at lunch.
So yeah.
All right. Next question.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. I notice it's interesting how you only explain the human process for this. So,
What
how
do you mean?
does it differ for other species?
Some species, so like fish.
Uh-huh.
They just give birth to a bunch of eggs, and then a male comes by and shoots semen at the eggs, and they all get fertilized.
You know that one Magic School Bus episode where they watched that happen?
The,
Uh,
I don't think that's a Magic School Bus episode.
It was. They were like,
I don't know what Magic School Bus you're watching,
I
but
swear to you, that was real.
okay. All right. Are you sure?
Yes.
You're
Yes.
not pulling my leg, are you?
I did just look it up. It is a thing.
Yeah, they
So
get
they were there during sex?
no like the fish comes over, the salmon comes
Oh,
over and fertilizes the eggs and they watch. I think they even get some of it on the bus.
man. And then that little like ginger kid was like, I knew I should have stayed home today. And then
Yeah.
Carlos makes a funny one liner about
Uh-uh.
something or other, and then they're like, oh, Carlos.
Yeah. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Anyway, Sachin, you want to take away with your question? With your answer to Job's question? Second question?
I could have, I could have, could have, I could have gone on with the rest of my life not knowing about this, and then you two had to ruin it.
Well, this is about science. Science is
Yeah,
about learning.
that's what science is about.
That's what science is. Going in a school bus, listening to a ginger kid crack a joke or two, listen to like a Carlos crack a joke or two, and getting some sperm on your bus.
Yeah.
All
That's
right,
what science
Sachin, take
is.
it away.
All right. The next question, Job, that you asked us is
Yeah.
the classic. If we evolved from monkeys, then why are there still monkeys?
Yeah. As you know, I'm a devout Christian.
Uh
Um
huh.
and honestly, I have not believed a single thing you guys have said throughout this
Oh,
entire podcast.
all right, all
So,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So first
that's
thing to
fair.
clear up is that humans didn't directly evolve from monkeys as we know them today.
Uh-huh.
There's a common ancestor that was the ancestor to both humans and monkeys. So there's
Mhm.
that clarification first. And one species doesn't just evolve into another. So what happens is that species can evolve from another species, but the original species will still exist. It's just branching off. So that's how there can still be humans and monkeys if humans evolved from a common ancestor with monkeys. For a comparison, this might be a little confusing at first, but it's like, how can we have grandparents that we share with our cousins if our grandparents are still alive? As in, like, grandparents can have multiple children and create multiple families, with everyone still being related and coexisting, the way that humans and monkeys do, with the grandparent in this case being the common ancestor. Does that make sense?
I see.
Alright,
Okay.
next question.
So, Joe, the third and the last question that you asked us was, what happens when someone loses their virginity?
Yeah.
Now, I know you being a devout Christian, it's an
Uh,
auspicious time because, of course, they're married, of course.
yeah.
But, like, let's explain it biologically, shall we?
Mm.
So, for men, not much happens. Like, biologically, not much of a change. Well, you did see in Baki Hanma or whatever, after he had sex, he got stronger, more hormones, if you
Yeah,
will.
obviously.
There is a hormone change associated with sex, I do believe, as you did upload a second image to my DMs. Okay. Well, that's for another time, isn't it? So for men, not much. Maybe like he gets home, he gets some high fives, maybe, or he gets laughed at, or he gets, he just falls into a stupor and plays Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
But for women, on the other hand, biological changes do occur. So, first of all, they could get pregnant. Second of all, oh yeah, for men, they lose a bit of sperm, but hey, what do you do? But for
Yeah.
women, if it's their first time, then women have this thing called a hymen. You know what I'm saying?
Y'all.
Right? Well, vaginal sex will cause a rupture in the hymen, right? So hymen's like a seal. So after the sex, it breaks, causing blood flow. So like, yeah, their downstairs can start bleeding during the first time. So don't be surprised, because it's a struggle that they have to go
Oh,
through.
Job is not
So,
surprised because he has a wife and everything.
oh
Yeah.
yes, yes, he
I
has two
do
children.
know very much about this.
Although the hymen can be opened. So say you're like, oh my, she's a virgin, and you do it, but she doesn't bleed. Well, it can be ruptured in other ways. Like if maybe she's an athlete, she
Uh-huh.
took too many like soccer balls to the sternum. I don't know. It can rupture in other ways, but it does rupture during sex. So
I see. I see.
yeah, the human body is very interesting. Now, Job, we do have viewer questions, right?
Oh
Questions
yeah.
from the viewer.
From
Do you have
your
do you have
leagues
any
of
questions?
adoring fans.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any questions about what we just told you about your questions?
Um,
Are you confused?
well, I
Con-
still believe
Yeah.
babies come from the baby factory. I
so
still
very
believe God
confused.
created
Okay.
humans in his own image.
Okay.
And I believe sex shouldn't happen before marriage. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna like every time you say God from now on, I'm just gonna censor it.
How dare you? How dare you censor my faith?
I too know quite a bit about. So
Mhm.
okay,
You mean science, right?
I do know about a lot about science. Well, we
Oh,
do have
oh, science.
questions. We do have questions, right?
Uh-huh.
So Sachin has the first viewer question. If you would read the question and then read and shout out our viewer.
All right. So the
Oh yeah,
question,
Job, you can hold on. Job, you can try to pause it and answer before we give the science answer, but
Oh
you don't
yeah,
have to.
yeah. Okay.
All right.
yeah. So the first question is a computer science question. Let's go
Uh-huh.
computer science. And the question is, what is the easiest programming language to learn? And it was asked by
Probably
Michaela. And Joe, what do you have to say about this?
I would probably say like English, maybe Spanish.
I'd have to say like Galactica,
Oh, yeah, that is a pretty easy
or maybe
language.
like Pig Latin.
Yeah, yeah, if you have an English basis, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
What do you
All
have to
right.
say about it, Sachin?
I'm gonna leave.
Are we
What's the
close?
easiest? Yeah, I mean, you're a computer science guy, or is it like, could it be German perhaps? I feel like Mandarin is the hardest programming language to learn.
Oh, Arabic too, because it's
Oh, that's
backwards. It's
true.
backwards.
Yeah,
You got to
yeah,
flip
yeah,
your computer upside down.
yeah, yeah.
That one might be a bit offensive. Yeah, would you want to regale us?
With your expertise, Sachin.
Okay. Anyways, the I can't say exactly what the easiest is, but I would say that Python is up there, relatively easy to learn. Although just because it's easy to learn doesn't mean it's easy to master. Python is easier because the language writing in it is pretty similar to writing in English because they use a lot of keywords that are like in English, like and is a command in Python, and so is or and other things, while in other languages they use special symbols for those. So, and they also have a lot of built-in functions for you to use. So it's a lot like writing different words in English, but like adding like parentheses and colons and plus signs and everything.
I
So it's
see.
really similar to writing in English, but that's not the case for other programming languages.
I
Am I
really
taking
thought
this
it would have
one?
been Spanish.
Yeah, it was up there. Our next question comes from Sunlat. How do poop be forming? Well, let
Job,
me tell you how poop be
Job,
forming.
take it
Joe,
away.
how do you think it be forming?
Well, I feel this is from the Bible. It says poop. He creates the poop in our stomachs and it just passes down.
That's very close.
Okay.
So basically, you eat food. Chemical and mechanical digestion occur. Mechanical digestion is like your stomach churning and squishing the food, your teeth chewing the food.
Yeah.
Chemical is like, enzymes breaking down food, right? It
Yeah.
passes through your digestive system, getting absorbed, getting broken down gradually. Goes from your mouth, your stomach, your small
Uh,
intestine, your large intestine, then your rectum.
yeah.
And then yeah, so when it's in your large intestine, it's basically like poop at that point. Just your large intestine absorbs water out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just a bunch of bacteria and like food stuff that you can't uh digest.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you were very close.
So you're saying that all of that is stuff that you can't digest, whatever comes out.
Could I
Well, certainly
perhaps?
part of it, but like
Yeah.
mostly, I'm pretty sure most of it it's bacteria, and then some of it like cellulose you can't digest.
So if one were to, okay, yeah, let's not go there.
Could I perhaps eat the poop again to digest more?
Our next question comes from Big
Okay.
Dog.
Uh-huh.
Are there different human species or just one? Sachin, take it away.
Well, actually, first I'd like to hear Job's opinion on this matter.
Uh-huh. Well, as it states, he only created, two humans, Adam. Well, he created one, and then I guess Eve came from the rib, so I guess he created her too. So two humans. So there's only one human species, obviously.
Okay.
So the correct answer
And you
is
don't have to say correct. You could say different interpretation.
anyway, the correct answer is that currently there is just one species. But scientists think that multiple similar species evolved around the same time, and that our species is the one that came out on top. So
Mm-hmm.
somewhere out there, there could have been at some point a Homo superior instead of a Homo sapiens, for those
Uh-huh.
Marvel fans out there. And There are some species in Homo genus, like Homo neanderthalensis. A lot of other species names that I can't say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Delbergensis, Naledi Florentian. Dude, the furniture in my room started floating when I said that.
Oh my
And then
god.
Lisonensis.
Some interbreeding between these species could have occurred, but who is to say?
Who's to
Yeah.
say? Who's gonna know?
Well, Job's mom for one, but moving on.
Okay.
Moving on. Om Patel asks, how do airplanes stay in the air?
What a dumb
Which Ohm are
question.
we talking about here?
Well, we're not gonna put him on blast, OHM. We're not gonna put him on blast though.
Uh-huh.
So, Job, how do you think an airplane stays in the air? Do you know what an
God
airplane is?
holds a string to keep him in the air.
Okay. All right.
So, like,
All right.
what happens if there's like 3 airplanes?
He's divine. He can just hold some bunch of strings.
Okay.
So, what you're saying is that he uses string theory to hold up the planes.
If that's what that is, yes.
All right, Sash, take it away.
Alright. So, basically, airplanes need to move forward at high speed in order to stay in the air, and the wing shape is crucial to flight. The curved top surface and flat bottom surface mean that air has to travel further over the top of the wing, and therefore it has to travel faster over the top of the wing than under the wing. And this is important because of Bernoulli's principle, which states that higher airspeed or fluid speed means lower fluid pressure or air pressure. And so, because of this, there's higher air pressure under the wing and lower air pressure above the wing, which is why the airplane will go upward. And that is the standard explanation. Well, do you want to know something? It's wrong, or
What?
at least flawed. First, air above and below the wing does not necessarily meet at the same time at the end of the wing, and the curve doesn't directly force the air to move faster. If you consider the airplane wing shape, but it's tilted upwards so that the end is lower, then air under the wing is pushed down by the tilt, while air above the wing is given more volume to move while tracing the shape of the wing. This is why there's differences in pressure that then cause speed differences, not the speed itself causing the pressure difference. And the air following the upper curve of the plane is pointed downward at the end of the wing, which also produces lift. Did that make sense, or do I need to explain it again?
Mhm. No, that makes sense.
Alright,
You want me to take it away with the next two?
sure.
All right. So, Mark Twain asks, what is in the middle of Milky Way?
Wait, isn't that guy dead?
Nope.
Uh, Science
No,
is
he's not.
amazing.
So, Job, what is in the
Uh,
center of Milky Way?
God.
Okay. Well, if you were to ask me, I'd say it's nougat and caramel. Ha ha ha. Anyway, it's typically thought to be just a black hole with gas, dust, and stars swirling around it. And
I once
then,
I once
what?
told a science teacher that, and she said I was wrong. And then I was like,
Goddard.
but I saw it, and he's like, I saw it in the video, and he's like, no, that's wrong.
Damn.
Which answer are you talking about?
What's in the middle of the Milky Way?
Yeah, like what did you tell
Oh,
her?
I told her the black hole. I was like,
Oh,
there's a big black hole, and she's like, nope,
and
wrong.
that's when she told you it was God instead.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. All right. What is the meaning of life that is submitted by a
Uh,
name?
Hold
What do you
on.
think? What is the meaning of life, Job?
As you know, and
All right.
also like getting money.
Okay.
Hold on,
All
hold
right.
on. I will attempt to pronounce the name.
I think the name means something crude in another
แม่
language.
ของคุณ
Oh, It's
It's like
Thai.
Menkungkurumi is exactly what the name. I don't think I butchered the pronunciation, but that's how you say it.
It is Taiwanese. It's Thai, and it
Doesn't it
means
mean like
your mother.
people? Yep.
Yeah, means your mother.
All right.
I think
Well,
you're.
according to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's 42.
Yeah, 42 is the
Would you
meaning of
like
life.
to elaborate on that?
So a supercomputer called Deep Thought found it to be the ultimate answer to the. We censor that out. Censor the F word out. Censor the thing that I censor. You know, what, just cut this whole thing out. Censor this whole thing out, and then we're gonna start with. And we're back. All right, Sachin. We're gonna start
Yeah,
with this now.
yeah.
Okay, sorry, my bad. So a deep thought found it to be the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. It just appeared in many places in the book. But the meaning of life changes from person to person. As Job said, money,
Yeah.
might be love.
Nah.
Oh, okay. Probably is money then.
hmm
Anyway, also
So
elaborating on that answer, it was later revealed that the question that Deep Thought was trying to answer was actually what is 6 times 9 or 9 times 6? I forget what exactly it was.
Oh, wait. So how did they
So
confuse
they
that?
spent like billions of years, and the supercomputer was actually Earth. Earth was the supercomputer, and it was calculating for billions of years to find that answer to that question.
I
It's
see.
really really deep stuff when you think about it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
deep thought, if you will.
huh.
Oh my god.
Oh, that was a real zinger.
Uh-huh. Good
Well,
one.
that brings us to the end. So this is our conclusion piece. What did you learn, Joe? What did we all
Uh,
learn? Let's start with Joe. What did we all learn?
well, I learned that Charles Darwin was a quack, and a hack. I learned
Uh,
that there's nougat and caramel in the center of Milky Way. I thought it was just caramel.
uh-huh.
Um, and I learned that women are needed for babies.
Oh, yeah. And Sachin, what did you learn?
Um, I learned that if we want to learn more about the history of the universe, we gotta turn to Job's mom at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Peddling it to the end, I see. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Ethan, what did you learn?
I learned, you know what? I learned a lot. I learned a lot about you two. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the universe.
Uh-huh.
That's a very interesting and inspiring answer, but it also doesn't say anything, like actually.
I
Well,
think I think you did that on
well, the
purpose.
key takeaway is we all have to start somewhere, and the beginning is usually a good place. So, Joe, what would you like to shout out? Would you like to
Uh,
shout out anything?
I have my own podcast. If you guys, it's much more crude than this one.
Uh,
4P podcast on
And is
Spotify
there
and
any
YouTube.
significance to that name?
yeah.
No, it's just 4P. For it's it could be four podcasters because there's four people, and we have some guests sometimes.
Yeah, I
Ethan
was a
was
guest
on
on it.
yeah,
I was
Ethan was
also a guest.
and Sachin was a guest too.
Yeah.
So if you like this podcast, you might want to check out that one.
Okay. And Sachin, where will this episode be uploaded?
Probably YouTube, unless like this all gets deleted. In that case, you'll never hear from us again.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And well, that was the episode. Tune in next 5 seconds where the episode is themed to be the science of film. Isn't that interesting?
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, that was the show. Thank you for being on.
Uh-huh. No
Goodbye.
problem.
I'm gonna head out.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And then put like a cool star transition and then like fade
Yeah.
us to black. I'm like,
Do-do-do-do.
all
Or we
right.
could do like one of those things where it's like and then it cuts off the middle of your scream. All right.
All right.
Nice episode.
All
Thank you,
right.
Job.
No problem. All right. I'm gonna eat breakfast. Bye.
Okay. Bye.